Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Prajahati Yada Kaman
प्रजाहाति यदा कामान्
Sarvan Parthamanogatan
सर्वान् पार्थमनोगतान्
Manogatam
Atmani Evatmana Tushtaha
आत्मनि एव
Vatmana Tushta
Sthita Prajnastaduchyate.
Sita
प्रज्ञा
Pragyasta Dochyate.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So, this is not possible for us, but this is the standard Krishna is saying. Giving up all varieties of desire for sense gratification. Means no TV, no movies, no music outside of chanting the holy name. So, who can live without all these things, right? But that is the standard. When Srila Prabhupada came first to America and he said, yeah, you have to give up all these things in order to get liberated. People said, but these are the things that keep us here. I mean, otherwise we'll be dead. He said, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. And people said, oh, without these four things, we'll be dead, Prabhupada. Because we live on meat, we live on alcohol, we live on sex, and we live on gambling. If you really look at American economy, and now even Indian economy, American economy, 5/6, somewhere between 3/4 and 5/6 of the economy is running on these four things, these four pillars. Everywhere you go, if you go to Texas, you'll see steakhouses everywhere. If you go to Mukilteo Casino, gambling, right? If you go to downtown Seattle, all the restaurants serving meat. So Prabhupada's disciples said, it is impossible. We can never take this up. But then a few people came forward and took it up. To give up all varieties of desires for sense gratification, all varieties of desires for sense gratification. It's not easy. It's a pretty tall order. But if you're interested, you have to gradually or even quickly give up all desires for sense gratification. Like I know one of my friend here, he used to work in T-Mobile. I also worked in T-Mobile for some time. So he came in contact with Krishna consciousness. Within 3 years, he said, okay, that's it. He quit his job in T-Mobile. He went to Ujjain in Madhya Pradesh. He became a brahmachari there. Brahmachari means no income, just distribute Bhagavad Gitas on the streets. He was making like what, 120, 130K salary in T-Mobile. He gave it all up. He said, I don't want any desire for sense gratification. And find satisfaction in self alone. So his satisfaction is coming from within, not from buying cars or big houses. So we know that there are practical examples right in front of us. And I told him, Murray, why are you leaving this? Such a good job in T-Mobile. Why do you want to leave it? He said, no, I don't have interest in all these things. I'll just, chant Hare Krishna and lead a simple life. So there are people. It's not like only theory. It's not theory. People will read this Bhagavad Gita and then they will change their lifestyle heavily. They'll go in a different direction altogether. Okay, Devika, read the purport.
The Bhagavatam affirms that any person who is fully in Krishna consciousness or devotional service of the Lord has all the good qualities of the great sages, whereas a person who is not so transcendentally situated has no good qualifications because he is sure to be taking refuge in his own mental concoctions. Consequently, it is rightly said herein that one has to give up all kinds of sense desire manufactured by mental concoction. Artificially, such sense desires cannot be stopped. But if one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, then automatically sense desires subside without extraneous efforts. Therefore, one has to engage himself in Krishna consciousness without hesitation. For this devotional service will instantly help one onto the platform of transcendental consciousness. The highly developed soul always remains satisfied in himself by realizing himself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord. Such a transcendentally situated person has no sense desires resulting from petty materialism. Rather, he remains always happy in his natural position of eternally serving the Supreme Lord.
Yeah. So we are just in chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, and it's already getting pretty strong, as you can see. Right? A highly developed soul remains satisfied in himself. So, Atma Ramascha Munayo. Atma Ram means you are happy inside your Atma. You are not happy with external things. And realizing himself as servitor of the Supreme Lord means recognizing that I am a servant of God. Like, for example, my name is Radhika Gopinath Das. Das means servant, the servant of God. So I need to be doing things for the Lord alone. Of course, I don't spend all my time doing that, but that is the standard. I need to be improving myself in doing activities for the Lord more and more and more, so that at the point of death, I should be doing 100% activities for the Lord. Right? Sometimes my kids say, oh, why don't we go watch that movie? I said, if you want to go, you go. I have better things to do. Right? So most of the time they just go with their friends and all that. But I don't go. Right? So because at the point of death, my goal is to be 100% devoted to the Lord. So no sense desires resulting from petty materialism. So what we are all doing is petty materialism. Means, oh, what do we do? Like what does population do? Almost 100% of the world. They go to office, make money, they pay the bills like apartment or house or electricity, water, grocery bill, and they go to sleep. That's it. They only do three things. They work, they buy things, and then they go to sleep. That is why Srimad Bhagavatam says that human beings are becoming like animals. What do animals do? Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. What do humans do? Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So what is special about us? Nothing. Unless, of course, dharmo hi eko adhika vishesho. We have to take up the principle of dharma and do something higher. Otherwise, we are no different. Dharma hina pashuvir samanam. That's the last line. Ahara nidra bhayamaitu namcha samanya etad pashubir naranam. Dharmo hi eko adhika vishesho. Dharma hina pashubir samanam. So Shastra says that if you don't have the principle of dharma, then pashubir samanam, you are animals. We are all animals if we don't follow the principles of dharma. Now, if you go and say this to somebody in your office or in your relatives, they'll immediately beat you up. Right? But essentially, according to scriptures, we are all living like animals. We are not leading human lives. Human lives means we have to rise above materialism and come to position of eternally serving the Supreme Lord. So it's not like you give up activity. You still do activity. Like you may be building temples, you may be chanting Hare Krishna, you may be always talking about the Lord, just like Bhakta Ramadas in Andhra or Sant Tukaram in Maharashtra. The various saints all over who have done this. So there is a clear example. It's not like, we are the first people on the planet to be talking about this stuff, right? Without people before us have done, people after us also will do it. That is if you're interested. If you're not interested, then just go with the flow. So the modern world is going at a certain pace, inventing new devices and, increasing the level of comfort, right? So previously people used to take the stairs, then the lift was invented. People used to previously, put like a wet towel on the window to remain cool. So now they invented air conditioner. So in this way, comfort is increasing. There's no doubt. Comfort is increasing, but the desire to serve the Supreme Lord is decreasing. It's almost practically to a level of zero right now for most of the world. But then we are not most of the world. We are very special people. So we have to think about something higher, right? So otherwise, if you also do the same thing that the rest of the world does, then what's the use, right? I mean, we having come in contact with this knowledge, we have to do something higher, which means giving up the sense gratification, as he said here, right? What did he say? Artificially, such sense desires cannot be stopped. You cannot stop yourself. You have to do these things, which is anti-Krishna, basically, anti-God. Most of the activities we do is anti-God, just like pumping petrol from the ground to run the car. That may seem very natural to us, but that's anti-God. God never gave you permission to do that. He said, live simply in one location, not this long distance travel, coming 10,000 miles away from India to work in America. All this was very unnatural. But somehow or the other, we are doing those things. So our desires cannot be stopped. But then how do you stop them? By being engaged in Krishna consciousness, then automatically sense desires subside. So we will be less and less interested in all this nonsense. Like one person said, oh, we are playing cricket in Mary Moore Park. Do you want to come? I said, I have zero interest in that. After that, the fellow doesn't bother me that much, right? So people will come up with various proposals. Oh, let's do X, Y, and Z. So unless you do it, somehow or the other linked to Krishna, then just don't do it. That's the thing. So any thoughts, questions? This is a very strong verse. No questions, Aryan? Any questions?
No.
You are at that age where all these external things will be very highly appealing. Baseball games, movies, going to Las Vegas, going to disco, because you'll be joining college very soon. So all these will be very highly appealing to you. But then this is Krishna standard. So you have to decide, I want to be on this side of the fence or that side of the fence, or sit on the fence. Okay, some Mataji had some word. Was there a question? Okay. So this is very difficult, huh? It's very clearly said, such sense desires cannot be stopped. How are you going to stop? Right? Like people will leave everything, go to Himalayas and sit there. And they are thinking about how to go to the city and enjoy. So they may physically be away, but mentally mind is pulling them. It's not possible. Unless you engage yourself in service of the Lord, which means that everything will get dovetailed in that direction. Dukkeshva anuvigna manaham.
Dukkeshva anuvigna manaha.
Sukeshu vigadaspiraha.
Sukeshu vigadaspiraha.
Vitaraga bhayakrodaha.
Vitaraga bhayakrodaha.
Stitadhir muniruchyate.
Stitadhir muniruchyate.
One who is not disturbed in the mind, even amidst threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. So a sage means mind should be steady. So there are 3-4 miseries. Sometimes there is forest fires in Portland. Sometimes forest fires in Vancouver. Black Lives Matter riots. Attack on the Senate. So what do? You're not disturbed. Then you are a sage. Otherwise, you are not a sage. You are in a cage of this matter. So, and then who is free from attachment? Because all of our fear comes from attachment, right? Oh, house prices are going up. Oh, house prices are falling. Oh, stock market is going up. This, that. Always fear, attachment, anger. These are our enemies. If you want to choose this line. If you don't want to choose this line, that's fine. You can do whatever you want to do. You're pretty much at the mercy of your previous karma. So the karma can come and hit you like a baton. Like when there are riots happening, right? Police will bring these big batons and then they'll beat the people up. So you're pretty much at the mercy of this baton from karma. But if you want to change your life, then you have to pay attention to this. So we should not be disturbed even if things are going up or things are going down. Right now, things are going up. House prices are skyrocketing. Stock market is skyrocketing. Everything seems to be good. Right? So you should be not elated when there is happiness. At the same time, after 10 years, everything will go south. At that time also, you should not be unhappy. Not too happy, not too unhappy. Neutrality. Okay, so there is a question in the chat window. How to keep practicing Krishna consciousness with reading, hearing about Krishna when your other family members are not engaged and expect you to be available for them for all times, like camping, movies, TV, etc. So yeah, you cannot totally pull. There are two ways. One is you gradually, with good behavior, convince them of this process. And while doing so, you pretend to do these activities. So you may go to a movie, but not really focus there. Your focus is elsewhere. Camping is not anti-Krishna consciousness necessarily, right? What are you doing? You're just going into the nature. You are not really sense gratification or anything like that. So in camping, you can sing some songs about God, play some music, learn violin or veena or drums. Like my son plays the drums and everybody calls him whenever there is a home program. So he goes there and he plays the mridanga. It's not like he quit his college or anything like school or anything like that, right? So a lot of people invite him to participate in their events at their home. So TV is, of course, is a big headache. Even materially, it is called an idiot box. If you watch TV, you will become an idiot. TV is for like low end of the spectrum, unemployed people, marginal people, they watch TV. Would you rather watch somebody else's show or create the show? Which is more exciting? You create the show. If you are interested in music or art, you create your own movie. Post it on YouTube and let it have 1 million views and hits. Somehow connect that to Krishna. Right? Most of the people in the world are idiots. They are watching content created by somebody else. Why don't you be the leader? Create the content yourself. Right? So yeah, create a movie about an engineer becoming Krishna conscious and how his life changed. Or you could, like some of the people do, Americans, they come in contact, they go to India, they go to various dhams and make movies on the dham, on Narsimha Kshetra, on Vrindavan, Mayapur, on Jagannath Puri. There's so many movies on YouTube made by these Western white-bodied people who also like to be in that art circle. So they make movies about Krishna, about dhams, about going to India, visiting these places. One person made a beautiful movie about Angkor Wat in Cambodia, which is the world's largest Hindu temple. It's a Vishnu temple. So the world's largest Vishnu temple is not in India, it is in Cambodia, because all of Southeast Asia was Hindu at one point. Then Buddhism came and now Christianity is kind of attacking at all fronts. So I mean, nothing against Christianity or Buddhism, but I'm just giving you history there. So the idea is you have to be God conscious somehow. Yeah, go to camping, make it into a God conscious camping event, like a bunch of devotees not last year, 2018, yeah, about 40 devotees from our temple went to a forest in Oregon. They took their tents, they camped there, and they cooked nice vegetarian bhoga, offered it to Krishna. They were singing songs, eating nice prasadam, and they came back home. So it's a Krishna conscious get together, not Maya conscious get together, like that. So yeah, camping. Somebody asked a question: is swimming Krishna conscious? Yeah, why not? Do swimming. Krishna never said don't swim. When you have a body, you will swim. You will take bath, right? So, but what is your consciousness? Are you doing it for Krishna or are you doing to please somebody else? That is the thing. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong. Make your own movie so that a million people can learn something about. Even forget Krishna for a moment. Even holistic lifestyle, right? Right now, people's lifestyles are so messed up. They wake up at odd times, sleep at odd times. Even if you make a mode of goodness encouragement, mode of goodness means people waking up at the right time, eating right. That is also very subtle. Subtly, you are transforming society. So make your own movie. Why watch some idiot's movie? Does that answer your question? By the way, these movies, right? Like Khushbu died at a young age. There are many Telugu heroines who died at very young age because there is so much bad, evil eye that falls on them. So heroines, most of them don't last very long. Just look at the history. And that guy who committed suicide or he was killed, that Hindi actor, what's his name? About a year ago.
Sushant.
Huh?
Sushant Rajput.
Rajput, yeah.
Sushant Rajput?
Yeah, Sushant Rajput, yeah. So there is so much evil eye, right? Everybody is gazing at you. So, unless you are spiritually strong, you'll be finished. N.T. Ramarao used to do late night pujas and yajnas to protect himself from that evil eye. So movie heroines, look at the history. So all of them die at very young. Right? So don't think it all that glitters is not gold. That movie industry is a horrible place. So Rajput was murdered. He was not suicide actually. He was murdered because he found something about the drug cartel in the Bollywood industry. So they conveniently finished him off. That's it. Done. Yeah, it's a horrible industry. What about any industry you pick? It's horrible, right? Like if you look at Las Vegas, so many bad things happen there. So many people are murdered. One guy got onto the 20th or 30th floor and he shot at a concert and killed like 30 or 40 young people who were dancing in the disco. So all those things are very horrible actually. So you travel for chess national tournaments. I'm going to Vegas. Yeah. So there is a temple there, a small temple. And it's not like you have to go to a temple. Your mind is your temple. So what is your consciousness? Even if you go to hell, you should still be conscious of God, Krishna. So you should visit the temple every day. I mean, you could even get prasadam. You give a small donation, maybe $5 or $8, get a plate of prasadam from there. And so that you don't have to eat this junk hotel food. Basically, if you eat food cooked by outsiders, you'll get their consciousness. If you eat food by a average guy in a restaurant in Las Vegas, next day you'll feel like, oh, I should also go and gamble, because it's very subtle. The consciousness of cook gets into the food, right? So you are trying to do X, and the food will make you do Y. This is your journey. I mean, I'm here only to give you input. If you want to do the journey, then you better protect yourself. There's so many people waiting to pounce on you. So you have to protect your journey. Like in the Middle Ages, all the Christian preachers were persecuted in Europe. They were like put in jail. Some people were killed. Some people were tortured. Why? Oh, their only negative thing was they were talking about God. And people don't like it when people talk about God. because they want to talk about themselves. They want to talk about, oh, talk about me. I made a movie, now you watch my movie. Or I made this video on YouTube, you watch my video. So it's all about me. It's not about God. So there'll always be some protests from family members, from relatives, from office boss. If they find out that you are too religious, then they will fire you. So you should never reveal there, wherever your place of employment, you should be careful. Okay, Aryan, please read the purport.
The word muni means someone who can agitate his mind in various ways for mental speculation without coming to a factual conclusion. It is said that every muni has a different angle of vision, and unless a muni differs from other munis, he cannot be called a muni in the strict sense of the term. Nasav yasya tam nabinam. But a sthitavir muni, as mentioned herein by the Lord, is different from the ordinary muni. The sthitavir muni is always in Krishna consciousness, for he has exhausted all his business of creative speculation. He is called Prasanta Nisesa Nishasham Mano Ramtara, or one who has surpassed the stage of mental speculations and has come to the conclusion that Lord Sri Krishna or Vasudeva is everything. He is called a muni, fixed in mind. Such a fully Krishna consciousness person is not at all disturbed by the onslaughts of the threefold miseries, for he accepts all miseries as the mercy of the Lord, thinking himself only worthy of more trouble due to his past misdeeds, and he sees that his miseries by the grace of the Lord are minimized to the lowest. Similarly, when he is happy, he gives credit to the Lord, thinking himself unworthy of the happiness. He realizes that it's due only to the Lord's grace that he is in such a comfortable condition and able to render better service to the Lord. And for the service of the Lord, he is always daring and active and is not influenced by attachment or aversion. Attachment means accepting things for one's own sense gratification, and detachment is the absence of such sensual attachment. But one fixed in Krishna consciousness has neither attachment nor detachment, because his life is dedicated in the service of. Consequently, he is not at all angry, even when his attempts are unsuccessful. Success or no success, a Krishna conscious person is always steady in his determination.
Yeah, success or no success, Krishna conscious person is always steady in his determination to pursue this process of devotion to the Lord. So, if somebody is giving trouble, you should think, oh, I'm worthy of more trouble due to my past misdeed or karma. And these miseries are coming, but by the grace of the Lord, they are minimized. I should suffer more. That's how a devotee should think. Oh, Krishna has actually minimized my suffering. And if I'm very happy, everything is going well for me, then you should say, oh, I'm not really worthy of all these things. Why is the Lord giving me so much? Why is he giving me such a good job? Why is he giving me so much wealth? I'm actually not even worthy of this stuff. I should be a normal person, right? So in the same way, for example, if you go to chess competition and you win, you say, oh, actually, I'm not that intelligent. It's only the grace of the Lord that I won. And if something happens, somebody comes and hits your car, you should say, oh, I should have been killed. But the Lord only just did a fender bender, just like only the bumper is broken, but everything else is okay in the car. So in this way, you're always Krishna consciousness, always Krishna conscious, I should say. When things go well, you give the Lord credit. When things don't go well, you should say, I should have suffered more. But the Lord is so kind. He gave me less suffering. Like one of the devotee, some metal rod or something in one of the event came close to his neck, and he had an injury, and then they had to kind of do a surgery on his neck and all that. So his position was, yeah, that rod should have killed me. But look, I'm still alive by the grace of the Lord. So he's not saying, God, why did you hurt me on my neck? No, he's doing exactly the opposite. He's saying, oh Lord, I should have been killed, but you are so kind that you made me, you kept me alive. And suppose suddenly you get promoted in office and you're making a lot of money, your year-end bonus is like $100,000. Like right now with all the high priced Microsoft stock, a lot of people make at least 80, 100,000 on the stock itself, in addition to their base salary. So they should think, oh Lord, I'm not worthy of it, but somehow or the other you're giving me. But instead they think that I have worked so hard that God is giving. Well, 10 years ago, Microsoft stock was only $25. Now it is $240. So it's not like they are very intelligent. They're just, the Lord is giving them for whatever good deeds that they have done sometime in the past. So we should always give credit to the Lord and not think that I have done something so great. Right? Although externally it appears that you have done something so great, which is not true, because I know I have worked in Microsoft for 10 years. Not everybody is brilliant there. Some people are pretty mediocre. But then a rising boat lifts all ships, or there's, no, what's that? Rising tide lifts all boats. So when something is rising, everybody, mediocre or talented, everybody is getting benefited. So those are the situations where you give credit to the Lord, not thinking that I have done something so great. You are writing the same program that you wrote 10 years ago. But situations have improved you. So it's always the Lord who is in the center, and we should consider ourselves very fortunate to be getting whatever we are getting. And give credit to the Lord, and also give portion of your income to the Lord back, right? Like by buying Bhagavad Gitas, distributing to others, by building temples. But if you cannot build a temple yourself, then donating for a temple somewhere so that the glories of the Lord are propagated. Right? I mean, very rarely that you can build the entire temple on your own. So you collaborate with others and help if some other good spiritual activities happening. But of course, a lot of temples, they don't even teach you this knowledge. So you should only help temples where this knowledge is being disseminated. Right? A lot of temples, they just collect money and then once in a while they do some puja and then they don't worry. Really, when they don't really even think about welfare of the general population. Our temple, on the other hand, we think about the welfare. That's why I'm doing this course, right? I have better things to do too, like the vast majority of the world. But I have taken a break from those things and I'm teaching this course because it is good for the welfare of the society. Yah sarvatrani binish, yah sarvatrana binehas.
Yah sarvatrani binehas.
Tat prapya shubha shubham.
Tat prapya shubha shubham.
Na binandanti na dvesti.
Na bhinandanti na dveshti.
Tasya prajna pratishtita.
Tasya prajna pratishtitaha.
In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. So you make a profit, you praise the Lord, not praising the profit. And if you are in big time trouble, somebody is taking over your house, you don't despise that situation. Just say, okay, sometimes there is good, sometimes there is evil. But we have to be fixed in our determination to serve the Lord. Okay, Srujana, read this.
There is always some upheaval in the material world, which may be good or evil. One who is not agitated by such material upheavals, who is unaffected by good and evil, is to be understood to be fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one is in the material world, there is always the possibility of good and evil because this world is full of duality. But one who is fixed in Krishna consciousness is not affected by good and evil because he is simply concerned with Krishna, who is all good absolute. Such consciousness in Krishna situates one in a perfect transcendental position called technically samadhi.
Yeah. So the whole goal of yogic process is samadhi. Samadhi means alignment of our mind, intelligence with the Lord. You're only aligning. You're not like Samadhi doesn't mean that you go and merge in the Lord or do anything. So you can be in Samadhi technically wherever you are. Doesn't require a forest or anything like that. In the modern times, even going to the forest, somebody will be playing a tape recorder there or MP3 player. So there is no quiet place anywhere anymore. So wherever you are, you have to be in that transcendental position, means coming out of mode of ignorance, which is lazy and dull, mode of passion, which is hyperactive, to mode of goodness, and then crossing goodness to pure goodness, Shuddha Sattva. Shuddha Sattva means pure goodness. So we have to come to that. If you want to deal with somebody who is pure, Krishna is all pure. So an impure person cannot meet Krishna. So we have to purify ourselves, come to that standard, and then you can go meet him. Most people say, show me God. Yeah, but who are you? You are a donkey and you want to see God. So first qualify yourself, right? Even to get a job in Microsoft or Amazon or T-Mobile, you need to have a minimum bachelor's degree, in some positions a master's degree, right? So what is your qualification to see God? Nothing. So first qualify yourself. So that is the position called technically Samadhi. And there is always some upheaval. Every month there is some new news, something's happening or the other. 2020 was the year of COVID, 2021 something else, 2022 something else. There'll always be something. But our job is not to be agitated, means you don't get upset with, oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, 10,000 people died. Good. Okay, now let me chant Hare Krishna. That may sound pretty rude. Huh? Like, oh, this fellow is not affected by anything. He's very, very, how do they call them? Antisocial. No, we are not antisocial. We are focused on something higher, something internal. Right? If anything, we are more social than anybody else because we are giving the highest knowledge to the individuals. Other people, what they are doing is like, okay, you play cricket. What is it going to do for you? Nothing. You watch a baseball game. Okay, so what is it going to do for you? Nothing. Even from a material perspective, those things are a waste of time. Forget spiritual perspective, right? You could use that time to train your kids in something, right? Instead of wasting time on those things. So spiritual perspective, it is a pure waste. Okay, so we will now chant.
React, even though you are in middle of chaos. But as a human born, like, I mean, when Vidya also asked, you also mentioned that slowly we have to either pull our relatives or withdraw ourselves from that external activities, which are not pleasant for us, if I'm saying it in the right words. But there are some places where don't we have to react for being either a human or expressing our value, or not in a personal way, but in a grand scheme of things, if it benefits the environment or the society or in any way, isn't it our responsibility to get into it and fight for it?
Maybe, but how much of the contribution have you made to the society till date? We cannot do much. We think we can do a lot, but hardly anything, right? So physician, heal thyself. That is the saying. So if you want to help others, first you have to help yourself, right? If you go to a doctor and the doctor is coughing, you will run away from that hospital, from that clinic, right? You say, Arey, what kind of doctor is this fellow? He cannot cure himself. So what is he going to cure me? Right? So in order to help others, you have to first prepare yourself, right? So it is not so easy to help others because they are bound by their own karma, right? You are trying to help your own relatives, but they are bound by their own karma. And again, I'm not saying run away from your family. Recently, my mother had stroke, so myself and my wife went to India, spent 14, 15 days with her, and we came back. But how much can you do? We will not uproot ourselves and go there and stay forever. No. And there is no concept called forever, right? Things dynamically change. Health can improve, health can go down. People die. So many of my relatives have died. My father-in-law passed away. What could I do? Nothing. Zero, zilch, nada. So there is no control over birth. Who is taking birth in your family? There is no control over death. Who is dying? The only control is how you relate with them. Yeah, you be nice to them, but you focus on yourself. Otherwise, they will go down and they will pull you down into their hellish condition, right? So at least let some people come out of that. So you should not be so cooperative with them that you allow them to pull you down. You should be so skillful that you pull them up rather than they pull you down, right? That was Vidya's question. What about family? So you pull the family up rather than allow the family to pull you down. And that is where your skill and determination come into play. To live in the material world is not easy. You have to be extremely skillful. Chanakya Pandit, my wife was reading the other day the book. It's called Chanakya Niti. There he gives a lot of good advice on how to skillfully navigate this world while attaining liberation. Chanakya Pandit is not about, he was the minister of Chandragupta Maurya, but he was a spiritualist. He was always thinking about liberation. But while you are pursuing liberation, so many jokers will come in your way and they will try to disturb you. So you have to deal with them on their terms, skillfully get out, and then you practice your thing. That's where your intelligence comes into picture. Krishna has given you intelligence for a reason, not to write better software at Microsoft. The intelligence is given so that you can skillfully navigate this world and prepare for liberation. Yeah, any follow-on thoughts from that one? It's very simple. Chant Hare Krishna, read Bhagavad Gita, eat only prasadam, don't eat the food cooked in restaurants and other places. And then you'll go back to Godhead because your consciousness has become pure. To follow those three things is a big uphill battle in the material world. Like when I travel on work, I take my own rice cooker, I cook my own food. I don't want some joker's consciousness in my head. Right? So I make some dal and rice, put some spice, put the lid on the slow cooker. Within 1 hour, I have khichdi ready. I eat that when I travel. That is just one example. Devotees come up with all kinds of excuses. Right? If they want to read Srimad Bhagavatam, they'll say, oh, I'm sick. They put sick leave and then sit at home and do devotional service. So you may say, oh, but you are lying. No, you are skillfully escaping the situation, focused on the larger truth. So any other thoughts, questions, protests?
A part of me feels like that's selfish.
But you are a self, right? You are not your husband, you are not your son, you are not the chief minister of Punjab. You are a self, you are a soul. What is the soul's duty? To take care of its first self. Physician, heal thyself. Yeah, it is selfish, but you are a self. You are not a robot. Charity begins at home. You first help yourself, then you help other people. while you, if you are very skillful, you can help other people while you are helping yourself, right? So what you do, always cook nicely, offer it to Krishna, and keep calling your friends and relatives for prasadam. And then you feed them nicely. That is not selfish. And then they may ask, hey, can I have some Johnny Walker or beer? They say, no beer, Johnny Walker in my party. My party is a mode of goodness party. We only eat what Krishna eats. And they'll say, well, where is tandoori chicken? No, no tandoori chicken, because we only eat what Krishna eats. So you pull them into your party. Don't become part of their party. That's the thing. That's not selfish. Actually, you'll be very tired if you have to call everybody once a week. Like we used to do this for almost 6 years. Every Friday evening, we used to have a program at home and call all the people. And my wife used to cook. She's a pretty good cook. The Manchurian booth, she runs Manchurian booth at Anandamela. So, and people like her cooking, so they come and they ate prasadam instead of eating some junk outside. So at least she's helping improve their consciousness by cooking nicely, offering it to Krishna and giving prasadam to people, right? So that's not selfish. That's actually a lot of hard work. Try doing it. Then you'll come and tell me, Prabhu, this is too difficult. So this is how it is. You have to use your skill in service of Krishna. So Krishna consciousness, once you finish Bhagavad Gita, right, then you have to practice it. This is only theory. How do you practice it? Then you say, okay, what does Krishna like? He likes nice rasgulla, gulab jamun. He likes nice curry and paratha, aloo paratha. So I'll make all these things for Krishna and then call all my neighbors and friends and relatives and feed them. So slowly they are also getting purified, because when they are eating Krishna prasadam, they are also getting purified, because nobody is pure in this material world. So when you are purifying them, Krishna is very happy with you. They say, here is somebody who's working for me. She is, sacrificing her free time to cook for 20 people every Friday evening. That's 3 hours of hard work. So Krishna is pleased with you at that point, right? I mean, my skill is in teaching Bhagavad Gita. Your skill may be in cooking great. Some people may do very beautiful flower garlands. So they were doing flower garlands in temple, and then the local governments said, hey, your garlands look very nice. So why don't you teach us? So these Matajis went to some town in Kent or Auburn, someplace, and they did an event showing people how to make flower garlands. That is also Krishna consciousness.
Prabhuji,
Yeah.
this is Vidya. So I'm just a follow on. So to do all these things, you do need cooperation from your family members, right? If the other person that you're living with, if they say, hey, why are you wasting your time doing all these things? Come and watch TV with me, or let's go somewhere, or you are not interested in what I'm interested in. Why don't you just go and take sannyas? Then how do you handle those kind of conversations?
But you are already a grihastha sannyas. If you're reading Bhagavad Gita, you're already a sannyas. Sannyas doesn't mean going to forest. You're already aligned with Krishna, and now you are teaching your husband. Usually women have a lot of power over their husbands. So exert that power. Watch some old movies where they show how Satyabhama deals with Krishna. Women usually have a lot of power over their husbands. You can do some strikes here and there. I can introduce you to my wife and you can learn some techniques from her. She knows how to mold me. That is the job of women, right? To mold the husband. So you say, okay, you say TV is a waste of time. Really? I think that is a waste of time. Let me do something good. And then you cook some nice parathas for him and feed him. And then before he goes to TV again, give him some gulab jamun. And after that, give him some ice cream. The path to a man's brain is through his stomach. So you feed him nicely, he will be your slave. Not slave, right? He'll be very cooperative with you. Yeah, actually women have more power than men. Initially it will be like that. Initially it will be like that. But gradually, through patience and love and tolerance, you can, and then gradually people will see, what my wife is doing is so good, so interesting. Let me also learn this. I've seen many of the wives in our temple have transformed their husbands in this way. You don't fight with them. It's like you say, these are my priorities, and I hope you can cooperate with me in these priorities, like that. So any questions, Chandar or Aryan?
Prabhuji, just a small, well, not even a suggestion if it works out for Vidyaji. Maybe a little bit of service in the temple might be an initiation.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's
Right.
COVID times, but I mean, our family honestly started just eating prasad and then starting service. We didn't want to just go and eat, and we did some service and then ate, and then slowly, I think all four of us are into this. But yeah, it's an up and down journey. It has been so far.
Very good. Yeah. Your husband comes and joins my Friday class, right? Friday and Saturday class.
Shiva Prabhuji.
Yeah, Shiva. Yeah. He comes Saturday. Yesterday night he was there in my class. Yeah. So
I have a quick unrelated question.
No, but let me comment on.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. So Srujana's point is very valid. That's how I came into devotion. First, I went and ate prasadam in the temple. Then I started washing dishes, then cleaning the floor, then volunteering for website, then volunteering for making PowerPoint presentations for the temple leader. And now all of that has helped me focus that I'm able to give my own classes, right? So it didn't start off like this. It started by assisting somebody. So you always start by assisting somebody, just like an apprentice, and then they will teach you a few things about cooking or cleaning or serving the Krishna or making garlands for him. So yeah, Srijana's point is very valid. Yeah, now go ahead, Mataji, your question.
So recently, actually a few days back, my husband's father passed away.
Okay.
In our culture, we don't go to temple for at least 1 year. So I wanted to ask, is it like permissible to come to temple during this time?
Yeah, only first 11 days you don't come. That is the Shraddha. After the Shraddham happens, you can come. Only 11 days. That's it. Not 1 year. 1 year is way too much. Yeah, Shastra says only 11 days. Till the Pedda Karma means like the 11th day. Once you do that karma, done. At that point, your husband's father is no longer on the planet. He's already moved on to the next destination. So then what are you doing here thinking about him? But every year on Makar Sankranti day, you should give, put the picture of your father-in-law and then give nice samshos prasadam, cook various kinds of varieties and then feed him. Because in the higher planets, 1 day for them is 1 year for us. So once in Makar Sankranti day, if you do, that is sufficient. Makar Sankranti is January 14th, which just passed now. Or you could do for a few festivals like tomorrow's Ugadi, then you can do for Ram Navami in May, then you can do for Janmashtami in August, like that. Maybe 4 or 5 times a year you can feed your forefathers. But doing this 1 year thing is no, not a Shastric injunction. It is somebody, culturally people form those opinions. But Shastra says 11 days, that's it. When did his father pass away? When did his father pass away?
2nd April.
2nd April. So today is 11th April, 9 days. So day after tomorrow, you should come to the temple and perform yajna for him, for your father-in-law. That will be 11 days. And that is your duty. As
Yeah, he's already in India.
you have to do a yajna on the 11th day and then give some charity. Because when you give charity on that day, it is said that the soul leaves the material world and then it either goes to hell, not material world, but our planet, either goes to hell based on their karma or goes to heaven. So that is the junction. On the 11th day, you should perform yajna.
Yeah, he's already in India doing the last rites and customs.
Okay. So he's probably doing it there. The local pujaris will tell him that. Okay.
Yeah.
So somebody has another question? Aryan, I thought you were unmuting and then you went back to mute.
Oh no, I'm not sure. I wasn't asking.
So any other thoughts, questions? Yeah, this is an interesting process actually. Most people think that this is just like, oh, these people are old people reading some Bhagavad Gita. No, this is pretty serious stuff actually. To practice all this requires a lot of courage. This is not for the weak of the mind. This is like, you have to be pretty strong to do all these things.
I have a question, bro.
Yeah.
When I go to the tournament in June, like I saw they have like a Govinda's restaurant. Is it possible, do you think, like I can eat there like for all my meals, or?
Yeah, but which city in Las Vegas?
I'm not sure.
Okay. No, wherever you see a Govinda's restaurant, you can eat there because that is the temple prasadam that they sell there. I mean, they offer and take a donation. There is no.
Okay.
Yeah, Govinda's restaurants are there. I went to Govinda's in Ireland, in Dublin, in Ireland. I went to Govinda's in Delhi, in various cities, in Pune. So multiple places they have these restaurants where they, make good consciousness and with good quality ingredients. So usually Govinda's food is well respected wherever they are. Even local people who are unconnected, even when those guys go and eat there because the food quality is generally considered pretty high.
Yeah, it's like 10 minutes away from where I'm staying.
Go there. You should go there and then you should just poke around and find out what they are doing in that city. You can just ask about a little bit about philosophy and let's see what they say. You've been only hearing from me.
Yeah.
You should hear from other people also, a different perspective. Hopefully it will be the same, but I'll be interested to hear what they have to say.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will see you all next week. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy.
Prabhuji.